and welcome back to another episode of Screen Tested. I am your host Tyrant, and in today's episode we're going to be revisiting the concept of turning a lightsaber into a sword. Do they make good sword hilts, essentially? And what we're going to be exploring is the Darksaber. Does it make a good katana, I guess, because obviously the Darksaber is kind of heavily inspired by katana. I've actually done a full episode discussing the Darksaber, some of my pet peeves with the design and how it's used, etc, etc. But that's what we're going to be tackling mainly in today's episode. Now, we've already done episode 1. If you haven't seen that one, we took Dooku's lightsaber hilt and we essentially, for the sake of discussion, we put a rapier blade in it. Close enough. And it turned out really, really well, and it was so much fun. So obviously the next logical step is to do another one, but this one I don't think is going to be as straightforward as the Dooku saber. So getting started with the Darksaber build. Now, I purchased this hilt a couple of years ago. I didn't make this one. I purchased it specifically for the purpose of not only this project, but I also wanted it for reference. So the first thing that I'm going to do is use one of my old katana blades. Now, the katana blade that I'm using is one you've seen in countless different episodes. It's actually a really nice T10 katana blade that I like using, so that's why I use it in episodes quite a lot. So it's sad to see it sacrificed for this project. Now, one of the most important things that I'm going to be doing is changing the orientation of how the blade edge is with the hilt. Now, I'll get into this when we get to the testing because there's specific reasons for that. But for now, I'm just going to be grinding the tang as much as needed to try and get it to fit into the hilt. Obviously keeping the tang as cool as possible because we don't want to ruin any of the tempering on this. So once the blade fits snugly, I'm going to drill a hole through the hilt using the pre-existing holes from the katana and put a bolt all the way through. This should keep it nice and strong and secure. But for good measure, I'm going to use some of the pre-existing grub screws on the top half near the emitter. This is what actually holds the Darksaber blade into the hilt itself. Now, this is not for functionality. This is just because they're there, I might as well use them. The main connection point is the bolt straight through the hilt. And that pretty much means that the Darksaber is now ready. Just like I'm ready for this segue to today's sponsor. FlexiSpot, ergonomic chairs and standing desks. They are back for another sponsored segment since you guys enjoyed them so much. This time they wanted to send me their E7 Pro standing desk. Now, an ergonomic chair is one thing, but what will change everything is being able to stand up and work at the same time. At least I know it was for me. So they asked me to choose some options so they could send one out, and I chose the black frame with the dark bamboo tabletop. Now, I've never actually had like a solid bamboo like table, so I was very curious what it was like. It's really light and incredibly strong. Now, the E7 Pro has a static weight capacity of 440 pounds. I didn't really believe this, so I jumped on top of it, and it's actually true. It held my weight. Now, I'm not 440 pounds, but I am not light by any means. It has a height adjustment range of 25 to 50 inches, and you can actually see how high it comes up to me when it's at its maxed height position. And if all that wasn't enough, they also have a 15-year warranty with a 30-day risk-free return service if you're not happy. As I was putting the table together, I didn't see any nicks, any chips, any scratches in the paint. The quality of everything was not only solid, but in good condition. It also has great stability for being a standing desk. It's easy to use, and they include the tool that you need to put everything together in the box as well. There's also a little bit of an update on the ergonomic chair. I mean, I say update, I don't really have anything else to add. It's been in perfect condition since I've got it. I've had no problems with it. But I did think that there were 2 points in particular that I should mention. First off, the footrest has been a really awesome addition. Obviously, this is the first chair that I've ever had that has like an integrated footrest like this. I've really liked it. I've really liked using it. On top of that, the lumbar support, I do like the stability it gives to the lower back. So that's been really, really good as well. So if you want to pick up the E7 Pro, there'll be a link in the description and the pinned comment. Make sure you use code YTE7P50 to get a $50 discount. Thank you, FlexiSpot, for sponsoring today's episode. So we are back out here, guys. We have got the Darksaber Katana. Now, there's a couple of really important things that I need to talk about before we get into it, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, and that is, first and foremost, the orientation of the hilt. Now, the Darksaber is kind of an interesting saber in terms of its form, its function, everything. It's kind of one of those outliers that they introduced into canon, which kind of pisses me off. I've actually done an episode on it. I'll put something over so you see. But that's talking about it in lore. We're talking about the real world version as a katana. But I thought I should bring up is that obviously this is not the correct orientation of the hilt. In the shows, in the movies, in the Clone Wars, everything like that, it is orientated like this, which is really really bad. And the reason why is, first off, it's uncomfortable. This Tsuba thingy slams up against your hand. You also have a whole bunch of negative space here that you can't actually use with your hand, which makes it kind of terrible. And then you don't have very much room to put your second hand on. Also not a good thing. So that's why on this version, I orientated it this way so that the cutting surface goes this way. All of a sudden, my hand can push right up against the Subaru bit, and also I have a lot more room for my second hand. So therefore it becomes a lot more comfortable. Now, saying all of that, I am obviously using one of my old katana blades. It has some issues with it, but it still should be able to cut, and we still should be able to get a good feel for how this blade handles. And the first foremost problem. Let's cut some things and I'll go through it. Honestly, that is so fun. This is such a fun thing, but I have complaints. I have things that are not the best about this. First and foremost, how a sword is actually constructed in terms of where you place your hands on it. Now, this is a generalized statement, but generally speaking, when you're holding a sword, I want to hold it up close to the crossguard. The reason why is, or the crossguard or the guard, whatever it is. The reason why is because a sword is a long, heavy thing. It has mass to it. So holding it down like this means that I have less stability. It also means that the blade is heavier. There's a reason why we don't hold swords like this. We hold them up here so that we become a lever point and we can move a blade around a lot more quick and nimbly, right? With this, because of how it's designed, it's actually like 3 inches away from the start of the blade. The blade is supposed to start here, right? And you can see that my hand has to grip down here. So if we put the crossguard in line with where the blade should start, I'm actually gripping it here. So it's like gripping a sword like this, which means it's a lot more heavy and kind of awkward in some ways, right? It's still fucking cool though. Let's do more, Okay, all right. This is gonna be a running theme for today's episode. I'm gonna complain, but I'm gonna have a smile on my face and I'm gonna be having fun. You know what? It can hook on like that. I'm gonna take my gloves off and see how this thing feels just on my bare hands, and if it still feels acceptable. Immediately, this Tsuba thing fucking digs into the hands a lot. That one was all right. Yeah, with the bare hands on, right, it can still cut and it still feels reasonable. But this fucking Tsuba thing, it does not feel nice. It digs right into the hand, and if I bring my hand down any further, like I said, all of a sudden, the blade weighs even more. Have less control over it. All right, let's do a pool noodle. Let's switch it up for a minute. Yeah, that is a lot of torque on my hands. Holy shit. That might be the most torquey sword I've ever used. Yeah, because we're so far away from this point of the blade, the amount of weight and mass that it puts right at the tip when you're swinging it around feels completely different. If you're enjoying today's episode, you should consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. That was a disaster. So something I did want to bring up as well is this was a bit of a bitch to make. And what I mean by that is you would have seen in the build video and the build footage stuff, right? How this thing is constructed is a little wild. So we have the tang going all the way through the blade, that's great. We have a bolt running straight through the tang and the hilt, which is the main part we're holding. So there's no like danger of it breaking and flying off or doing anything like that. But how this Tsuba and how this little like a emitter bit, if we want to call it that, is actually held in, is they have 2 threaded screws going long ways into this hilt here. So they are like not strong at all. They are fucking, that is a terrible construction method for this sort of thing. But with a glove though, I will admit, it's perfectly fine. I like the indexing. It's a lot better than a round hilt, obviously. So I definitely know where my edge is at like all points, that's really good. I like that. It's just the weight. How the weight is dispersed and where you have to hold it is kind of just the biggest issue I have. Now, if I was to swing it around like this, how does it feel? Yeah, that already feels like shit. When I hold it the way you're supposed to hold it, even with gloves on, feels like shit. I do not like that. This way though, I could make do with it. Not a big deal. That was nice. Yeah. This is fun. I do like this. We've done the Dooku, we turned that into kind of a rapier is how I would probably describe that one a little bit more. The Darksaber as a katana, it's obviously a perfect fit. I mean, anybody who doesn't think that the Darksaber is based off a katana, you're kind of kidding yourselves. I spoke about this in the actual lore episode when we're talking about it, and a lot of people said, no, the Darksaber is not based off a katana. It's like, Dave Filoni loves samurai, he loves Japanese stuff. It has a faux, what would you call it, Tsuba on it. On top of that, the patterning down here, like it's reminiscent of a space katana. I don't know who would disagree with that. But this one's been fun. I do like it. Getting to our final thoughts for the Darksaber. Obviously, like the Dooku sword saber thing, this doesn't really get a tit score because it's just not that, it's kind of a made up thing, it's not that thing. In terms of how it felt to use, it didn't feel as good as a regular katana, obviously, but it definitely felt really good for what it is, which is a lightsaber hilt. Now, there is the small caveat, there are some nitpicks here and there that I'm not a fan of, like this fucking super ass thing that's just uncomfortable, gets in the way. Obviously in the, you know, the orientation that they designed, really not good. But in this sort of orientation, yeah, you can make it work. The reason why it's so comfortable is because it's an oval handle. You know, it doesn't have too many protruding things like control boxes or, you know, grips like on other sabers. So relatively speaking, it's just a comfortable handle. Like I said, there are lots of caveats in there. And the biggest issue with it, obviously, is how far the blade actually extends from where your hand starts. So this is actually a light katana blade. Like there's a reason why this one has a whole bunch of chips and gouges, because it's one of my favorites. It's a good workhorse. I like this blade. I had to sacrifice it for this project. But this blade feels a lot heavier than it usually does because of how far down I actually have to hold the bloody thing. Now, it being a metal handle, it wasn't too big of an issue. I'm not a fan of it. And these sharp bits on the Tsuba, not a fan of it. But wearing gloves, it's perfect. Like wearing gloves, yeah, I've got no complaints. But without gloves, yeah, there's a couple in there. But it's just fun. Like, it's just a cool thing. I really do think, I think on camera it looks pretty sick. But yeah, I think that's where we're gonna leave it for this one. I enjoyed doing this one. I don't know if I'm gonna be doing any more of these saber rehilts. Let me know if you guys like these and you wanna see some more. Give me some suggestions. But these were like the main two that I definitely wanted to do. And that was obviously Dooku's and the Darksaber. But that's gonna be all. Thank you guys for watching. I genuinely hope you enjoyed. If you wanna support my channel and the content that I make, there'll be links down below to my Patreon and YouTube memberships, obviously, where all of it really counts. It helps me put the money and the resources in to actually be able to do these sorts of projects. So maybe consider supporting today if you enjoyed the content. But that's going to be all. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I'll see you next week in another episode. Have a good one.